hike after this. I don't mean to ask you to put you on the spot to say, tell us what's going to happen in the future, but tell us what's going to happen in the future.
Good.
All right, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Keep Leading Live. I am your host, Eddie Turner, the Leadership Accelerator. I work with leaders to accelerate performance and drive impact through the power of facilitation, executive and leadership coaching, and professional speaking. Keep Leading Live, like the Keep Leading podcast, is dedicated to leadership development and insights. And I'm excited to come to you on yet another Monday at a different time for a very special guest. Can't wait to tell you all about her momentarily. Already, before I've gotten started, though, however, Stephanie Williams has shared the episode to her feed. So I want to encourage you to do like Stephanie Williams. Hit that share button so that your friends can join in on our conversation. You don't want to miss this one. You want to talk to this expert that I have who's going to help you solve communication challenges. So hit the share button so that your friends can be a part of the live conversation, or they can hear the replay afterwards. If you like what you're hearing, please hit the like button so that we know that you like what you're hearing. And then also, we're going to encourage you to tell us that you're here. Tell us who you are, that you're here. And sometimes LinkedIn doesn't push your name through. So, and people tell me afterwards. So let us know that you're here. Ask your questions. And I'm going to ask you to bring your communication challenges and your scenarios, your fears, your phobias to this session. We're broadcasting live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. So we look forward to having you as a part of this discussion. And I'm going to encourage you to follow my guest on social media if you're not already doing so. Do you have a crucial conversation that you need to have, but you're avoiding it because you don't have the right words? Do you have a friendship that is suffering, or a work relationship because you've actually already said the wrong thing? It's happened to us all. If that's the case for you, then you, like myself, we need to learn how to say it skillfully. And that is a trademarked phrase and a trademarked series by my guest today. My guest today has a 90-second video series designed to help leaders learn how to interact in a powerful, open, and honest manner at work. The series is called Say It Skillfully, and it's by the amazing Molly Tschang. So let me tell you just a couple more things about Molly. She helps executives build powerful chemistry to lead skillfully as one cohesive unit. She spent more than 20 years at Cisco and U.S. Filter, an early roll-up on Wall Street, integrating more than 80 acquisitions around the globe. She has this series, and she's one of Marshall Goldsmith's 100 coaches. I'm excited to welcome the amazing Molly Tschang.
Eddie, it's just an honor to be with you, and I love your passion. So infectious, and it's made my week already. Thank you.
My privilege. Well, I'm excited to have you. And I'm also excited to have joining us in this conversation, Lisa. Lisa's one of the new coaches here in Houston, and she's really good. And she's someone who I had the chance to meet. So she's based here. And also, Monica, someone who I recently met. She's an amazing coach, and she's based in Chicago, Illinois, if I'm not mistaken. We had a virtual meeting, and she's doing some pretty incredible work. And she's also, I believe, operating in the HR space or executive recruiting space, if I'm not mistaken. And finally, want to welcome to the show Stephanie Williams. She says she's excited about this topic, and she's who I mentioned earlier. She's already shared it to her whole network already. So she says, thank you for the enhancements that we're about to share. We appreciate you, Stephanie. All right. So Molly, tell me, what did I miss about your amazing background? What should everyone know before you start helping us with our communication challenges?
Well, I've had a varied background. I'll start just by saying there's really hope for everyone because I didn't speak English until I was 5, pretty much terrified going to school, am an introvert by design. I derive my energy from within. So this whole say it skillfully capability is something that one can learn. Everyone can learn and get better at it. I guess the best way I would share of myself is not by all the CV bio things, but I'd say, in a word, my passion is ignite. And my purpose statement is with heart, creativity, and compassion. I inspire myself and others to have the courage to be true to ourselves, dream big, and harness the wow power of us so that together we're a force of nature and anything is possible. That's my resin nutshell. That's what I do. That's who I am. It's created a great grounding for me, and it's just an honor, Eddie, to be here with you and have a chance to chat with folks today.
Well, I already love what you said already, especially when you're talking about ignite, because my tagline is accelerate performance and drive impact. And so you need ignition. You need to ignite to be able to accelerate. So I love it. And we also have had joining us from LinkedIn, Carl Sharperson. So Carl, welcome. It's good to have you in the house, as he says.
I love it. I love it.
So say it skillfully. Where did that come from?
So first, we want to honor our mentor and friend, Marshall Goldsmith, who created this wonderful, I call it a bit of our coaching club. And he really modeled generosity. He's very successful and wanted to give away everything he knows for free. He's later in career. And so I didn't really see any reason to wait until I was 70 to do that. And part of what I saw about a year ago was that Gallup put out some research. 85% of the world's employees, 85% are disengaged or actively disengaged at work. $7 trillion of lost economic productivity.
That's a lot.
A lot of money. And I just, in myself, I'm like, what? I can't get my head around that much human potential going to waste, first and foremost. And then it made it really real in that whether it was, I had executive vice presidents, managing directors, deans of universities, through individual contributors telling me, Molly, I can't say that. And I'm like, senior people can't say that. Junior people can't say that. First of all, for the individual, here you are, you've worked hard, you've made sacrifices, and you're not able to contribute fully. Mm-hmm. And then for the organization, I created this term shared reality I use. It's being on the same page. You're not going to have an accurate shared reality. You don't hear the different viewpoints, the dissenting voices, the differences, and align on those. And if you don't have a shared reality, you're not going to make the best decisions. You're not going to execute with speed or get to your greatest outcomes. And that's a drag. And so I found that it wasn't the psychological safety, because I can give you that in like an hour. I mean, people fundamentally want to trust. I don't know many leaders who say, I really wanted to create a scary environment that no one tells me what I think I need to hear. Mm-hmm. However, what happens is if we don't have the words that in my voice that I can feel like I'm not going to look bad or offend someone else, right? If I don't feel like I can say it that way, I'm just not going to say it. And so you have this epidemic of people holding back.
Well, where does that come from? This fear that we don't have the right words.
So I think the part about relationship, and I've talked about, you can think of your job along task and relationship. Task, you hit the strategy, hit the number, make the deadline. The relationship, navigating our interactions with ourselves and with others. with ourselves and with others. And when we're not as comfortable with our own self and where we are, which is the starting point, it's hard to kind of then go out. It's much easier to say, well, my boss, Eddie, he's not making it safe, and so therefore I can't say it. Now, I'm not saying that there isn't some truth on both sides, but I think a lot of folks like to kind of sit back and blame the other. And you can, for sure, have these instances where you see someone say something and they get penalized, for sure, right? Now, most of the time the leaders are not trying to penalize, but they're not aware that that dynamic happened. So unless someone tells them that, they're going to kind of do a do loop and repeat that. I mean, how many leaders have we said, we want to innovate, we want to innovate, you get it, you want to innovate. Someone goes out on a limb, innovates, really does try to do the right thing, but it fails. And instead of a golf clap, amazing, we get it, we're making, we're learning, we're making new mistakes, they get kind of hammered. That has to happen only once, and the rest of the organization is like, note to self, not exactly safe to make mistakes.
Yes. And so in those environments, when people find that they can't be themselves and they can't use their own voice, what impact does that have on the bottom line? You've described it in terms of the message it sends, but is there a barometer you can put around that?
Other than the Gallup study of the 7 trillion, you've seen this with folks. You can talk to people at work and they'll just say, we did this over again. We've made this mistake before. We knew this was going to happen. And so, you think about a system, a group of people in some interdependent relationship, all these folks have a different view. The folks I call it at the edge, salespeople, boy, they're going to really see the trends first and foremost, right? I remember my early Cisco days, and it was a bit about selling software, and it must have been 3 or 4 years. And it was kind of a joke. Finally, in the glass house, they've heard the message. And it's not that they don't want to hear, but something that might be a pain point at the edge kind of works its way to the top, and it gets kind of dull. And by the time it gets to the top, that's not really a big issue. And so creating the habit and the responsibility that I would call it like the bad news, the tough news has to travel even faster, is everyone's opportunity. It's not just, the people who see it. Well, they should be telling us. A lot of times, we've said we want to hear all the bad news. So it's for sure they may have said that, but if people don't feel like they've seen it in action or it's been rewarded, you've talked to Marshall, when someone gives us tough information, the first thing you want to say is, gosh, thank you. Thank you. May not have been that easy to say that. Just want to honor you're doing that and send a message to everyone else here that we want more of that.
Yes.
It's really basic. Took 15, 12, 10 seconds. It's people are noting, wow, did you see that? And then that leader asked for more. Ask for more people. Like we need, because that's when we embrace the differences, that's when we can really harness the best of all of us. To this whole notion of the diversity and the inclusion, sometimes I get a little jaded myself because I think people throw those words around. At the end of the day, you want to really embrace that. Eddie, you look at it differently than I do. Rather than listen to defend, how about listen without defending?
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And so you've said several things there that are challenging for people. Listening without defending, really listening to be able to make adjustments, but then also having the courage to speak up. And then understanding kind of like the dynamics of our different environments, especially with what's unfolding around us right now. There's a lot of charged issues that are in the workplace that are going undiscussed. They're not unhidden. They're not hidden, rather, because people are aware of it. They just want to talk about it. So you gave us one strategy there about how we can deal with this. What's another strategy if we are facing that? We're listening to this conversation you and I are having that we can take to be able to say it skillfully.
Yeah, I think there's a whole range. I think oftentimes to the point of the self, it's like it's about me. It's always about, obviously we're defending, we're worried, we're taking care of ourselves. And I don't want to make that wrong or bad at all. To get a good relationship with oneself is to create, I think, a greater sense of self-assurance and security, saying, you believe what you believe, you're doing what you think is right. It may not be right, but know that your intention is positive. And when you have positive intention and you communicate that, it really creates, I think, an opportunity to go forward and say what you want to say. when you think about, I unpack the word relationship on 3 dimensions. Your emotional intelligence, what's going on for me? Can I articulate what's going on for me? Think of that, your internal self-awareness. Then your social intelligence, your ability to empathize with someone else's emotional experience and really connect. And that's so fundamental to trust. At the highest level, as a relationship system intelligence, who are we together? Husband, wife, 2 people. Third entity is the couple. They're in the same couple, but have a different relationship of being in the couple. So a team, the ability to walk in each other's shoes, to empathetically understand, feel like what it's like for the other departments is really fundamental to collaboration and powerful group identity. And if you sit back and say, what's right for the whole? What's right? If that's the default, because you're comfortable enough going, I'm going to be okay. What's right for the whole? You can start to see how, wait a second, I'm noticing that we seem to be hearing from a different one point of view. We're not hearing from some others. So many people feel like they need to chime in and be right?
Right.
And Marshall noticed one of the worst habits of leaders is trying to be right all the time. Let that go. Hey, I'm noticing, we've heard from a lot of similar voices, a lot of voices we haven't heard from. How about if folks who haven't had a chance to chime in, right? So for us introverts types, sometimes we actually need to be invited in. It's not so easy for introverts to jump into the dialogue. However, lots of insight, intelligence, perspective that everyone has. And I think that's part of the opportunity for our team, I think, to co-create. Hey, we've got all these people. We're paying all these people to come to work here. Are we actually feeling like we can bring our whole selves and be our best? Because if we do that, we think we're going to contribute more and the company will do better. Do we want the company to do better? Oh, we do want the company to do better. So I think it's obviously, Eddie, you would want leaders to be signaling this from the top, right? At the top, but it's sustained at the base. And I want to empower folks throughout an organization to notice, I'm wondering, is this as good as we can be? Are we creating enough openness? Are we debating issues as much as we need to get to the right answers? And anyone in the organization can be doing that in the spirit of supporting the whole.
Wonderful. And I talk a lot about emotional intelligence, but you introduced 2 there that I don't talk about a lot. So systems intelligence and social intelligence. I like those 2. So I'm going to do a little bit more reading on those.
I can send you some stuff on that.
I bet. Hey, listen, we've also had Jay Griffin, and he is based here in Houston as well. Jay, welcome. He's one of our leaders in the retail industry, if I'm not mistaken. So Jay, thank you for joining us here live. He's coming from LinkedIn. And Monica, who we mentioned earlier at the start of the show, she is still with us. And she said, great point, Molly. How do you address, she has a question she wants to build on. How do you address the unsaid in conversations at work? I like that. And people talk about knowing the culture and the politics before speaking up. So how do you coach leaders to speak up?
This is great. Thank you, Monica, for bringing this up. So this notion of shared reality is bubbling it up, right? And so let's say this unsaid. You're thinking, something more needs to be said. The other person's thinking something needs to be said. But it's not shared reality because you both don't know that the other person knows it. I know this sounds crazy, but an easy thing, acknowledging what's been said. I really acknowledge folks leaning into the conversation. I appreciate people's openness. Notice the positivity that are starting with that. And then I'm wondering, I just have a sense that we might be holding back. Now, you didn't say people are holding back. There was no accusing people holding back. You're just curious, the meta skill of curiosity, genuinely, not judging. I'm wondering, I have a sense, I feel like people are holding back. In fact, I'm just going to go out on a limb. Let me just put this out. Is anyone thinking this? And they may say, no, someone may say, no, I'm not thinking that. Thank you. What is on your mind? So you're not trying to put words in people's mouths. Helping create, the on-ramps for people to come on in is a really great advocacy role. I know a lot of folks often do feel like, well, I'm sharing, but I know a lot of people don't. I said, well, okay, so now how can you be an ally to those people to help them find their voice? And I also think, whether you're the leader or part of a team, setting the stage, hey, if someone has a different point of view, we welcome it. And 2, it's everyone's responsibility. We need people to share it because heaven forbid we go into this client situation and we haven't considered all the angles. Would anyone want us to go in and not consider all the angles?
Right.
So it's that kind of language. Hopefully that helps, Monica.
Thank you for answering the question there. And Monica, thank you for submitting your question. I am talking to the amazing Molly Tschang. She helps leaders communicate better by helping them to say it skillfully. And I'm going to take a quick break right now, Molly, to acknowledge a few friends of the Keep Leading podcast. While we take this break, we're going to ask you to continue to do as Monica has done, and Jay, Carl, Stephanie, Monica, and Monica again, and Lisa. Let us know you're here. Drop a question for Molly about your communication challenges into the chat box. Molly will answer live right here, right now. Also, hit the like button if you like the conversation that we're having. Hit the share button so that your friends can join our conversation, and so that even if they miss it, it will be in your feed so they can see it later on. Right now, I want to transition and just tell you a little bit about some of the folks that help keep this show going. This month, I want to acknowledge Goldman Sachs, Starbucks, Progressive Insurance, and we always have our friends over at Grand Heron International. So I need to tell you about my friends at Grand Heron International. The key to sustainable leadership lies in the ability to thrive during uncertainty, ambiguity, and change. Grand Heron International brings you the Coaching Assistance Program, giving your employees on-demand coaching to manage through a challenging situation and arrive at a solution. Visit grandheroninternational.ca/podcast to learn more. All right. So we're going to come back to our conversation we're having here with Molly Tschang. Molly, before we took our short break, you were giving us some really nice tips about how we can say it skillfully, and you answered the question from Monica. As we go forward now, what I want to talk to you about is this phrase that you've used. You said, be your best friend, not your worst enemy. Tell our guests what that means.
So often, and I think a big part of why Say It Skillfully took off, like literally, like, you know, millions of views of videos. I have a radio show. It's that people really embraced when I said, we're all part of the problem and we're all part of the solution. We're all part of the problem and we're all part of the solution. And so often I think that it's just easy to blame. And it's not about making you a bad or wrong person, but it is about owning it. And I think that be your best friend, not your worst enemy. I see so many people, and if you ask them to give advice to a friend, they would say they would be empathetic. They would acknowledge and appreciate what they've done. When they talk about themselves, they're beating themselves up. They are, I can't believe I did that again. Why did I do that? I mean, super negative self-talk. I just had a long conversation with my mother about this, about her tennis. Okay, everything, folks who've been following me know that everything comes back to tennis. And I said, Mom, you know, you're so supportive. She's a nurse, for goodness sakes, right? She knows how to nurture and support. Yet when she makes mistakes on the court, you would think that the world is coming to an end. So the ability, literally, to think and your self-talk about, you know, how could you help encourage yourself rather than be your worst enemy and neuter, you know, otherwise degrade yourself, is an opportunity. I had on my radio show, a gal called in and says, look, I'm going for a promotion. I know I qualified, you know, I'm not sure, however, that the boss actually supports me, you know, kind of like this. So we talked it through. And at the end, I asked her what her top takeaway was. She goes, you know what? I'm not coming into that conversation positively nor with confidence. Oh, wow, what an epiphany. Because do we expect someone to promote us when we are not very positive and we're not very self-confident in ourselves? Why would that be a good thing? And so I'm not saying to be delusional about one's capabilities at all. However, you've got to realize that, you know, you've got to be out there advocating for yourself and feeling positive about it. And that's the energy that other people will, they'll be like, look at this can do. She even said she's not sure how she's going to do it, but you just know she's going to figure it out.
Good. Well, Stefano has chimed in and he said to us, thought-provoking conversations as usual. Thank you, Stefano. We appreciate you tuning in. By the way, I should say, thank you for talking about your radio show. We're going to mention that later again as well. Your radio show, and then, of course, these 90-second snippets. And how many followers do you have, by the way?
So I think I cleared like 56,000, which is just crazy to me.
Yeah. So a lot of people are following Molly Tschang. A lot of people are listening to what she says every week, what she puts out. So you want to be one of them. So Carl has chimed in. He has a question for you, Molly. And this is actually really good. I like this too, just like Monica's. So what is the most difficult or the toughest communication conversation that you've ever had or coached someone through? Please tell the story.
Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for that. And before I get to that, I'm going to do some real-time modeling. And I talk about owning it, right? And so at the beginning of this, I didn't say to Eddie that my name's Chinese name. It's a German spelling of a Chinese name, and the TS is silent. So it's a little tricky. It can be Tschang, but it's actually Tschang. And so I just want to open up saying, hey, so here I am. Eddie's doing awesome. Let me own that I didn't give you that, but I don't want folks to have the incorrect pronunciation, so I'm going to share it with you now.
I apologize. Thank you.
And there's no need for apology.
I am not saying it skillfully.
You were very skillful. I was the one who missed out. So here we go, right? This is awesome. So Carl, I'll change it up a little bit. I would say the absolute toughest conversations are for folks who really, 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 really take things very personally. Okay, so they can get feedback about their actions. And even though you can intellectually, relay to them how it's not personal, we love you as a human being, you're an amazing soul, right? It's just in their DNA. They take it very, very, very personally. And I think those are the times where, and I am an engineer by training, so I can be very logical and really cut it down and and at the same time, my mom was a nurse. My dad's like a double E physicist. My mom's a nurse. So I can be like a marshmallow. And I would say having the balance to be a really tough love, to help someone just own the fact that the actions aren't perhaps serving the way they think, and not setting them into a downward spiral where they feel very bad about themselves. And again, we can say that you shouldn't feel bad about yourself. We're not doing things to make you feel bad. But when they kind of feel bad, that's a tough place. So those are the trickiest ones for me.
Very nice. And Monica says that she loves your modeling, Molly.
I love that. I'm encouraging everyone. Now, see, folks are on the call. You're all now part of the tribe here. And we all know we're all part of the problem, all part of the solution. And this is the real opportunity to lead, whether you have that title or not. The actions that each and every person here have on others is not insignificant. And this whole thing for me is about helping millions and millions and millions really be able to be who you are and say what needs to be said, and to be free, really, to be a human at work.
Absolutely. And so I appreciate you walking us through this, and your ability to help so many people every week say it skillfully is quite a gift. So tell us your biggest success. I mean, has anyone written you and said, hey, listen, that video you gave last week, it really helped me?
I appreciate the question. I cannot even tell you how gratifying it is, like all the time. People write, and Serbia, Malta, all over the planet. I mean, the show is heard in 80 some countries, right? And people who've gotten, I got $10,000 more raise because you helped me to say it skillfully. And so it's not, when you do this, because I do it because it's a passion project. It's who I am. It's just really, and I'm an impact driven person. So it's really gratifying for me to know that people are out there and in a skillful way, putting themselves in positions to be more successful, to achieve what they want to achieve, to get what they deserve. And, I mean, literally for a while, it was a little bit crazy. I had Bruce Kazanoff, in our group as well. I'd send him, I'm like, can you believe this one? I mean, people, and then at home, people would, the most important relationships are relationships at home. And I had one early client, and she took it to heart. She said to her husband, yeah, gosh, darling, it would be a huge help if you would just take out the trash. It's right over there. It would mean the world to me, really be a big help. And she had been nagging on the trash for a year. And he turned around, he said, what is wrong with you? What do you want? He was like so suspicious. But she said, when you can't own it and exhale genuinely anger or frustration, which may be, again, very legitimate, and show up what's going to serve the conversation, it's magical. It's really, it is. And I had a very senior financial services executive, and she came back, she goes, I did it. I'm like, and she's like, it worked. It's almost like in her own disbelief. I'm like, yeah, it actually does. It does work.
So you're helping save marriages and careers.
I don't know about that, but I'm here to serve however I can, Eddie.
I love it. Well, Tamika says, thank you for explaining a scenario, Molly. And she thanks Carl for asking the question. So thank you, Tamika, for sharing your feedback.
So appreciation, one of my videos, if you haven't seen it, so Alan Mulally is one of our idols, and he's been an amazing mentor. He turned around, he was a senior at Boeing, he turned around Ford, and he talks about love and appreciation. And boy, I tend to be pretty positive. I have leaned into that 10x, and it's given me 100x impact. And by that, I don't mean gratuitous, disingenuous pat on the backs, but just, gosh, Eddie, thanks for staying late at work. I know that was a bit of a sacrifice at home, and I really appreciate it. I know the team was doing a lot of emails on Saturday morning when you should be at swim practice. Mm-hmm. Thanks very much. Tiny snippets show that you want to pay attention, and that two, you're really acknowledging people. And so that little bit of positivity, the most successful teams they're very positive. That is an attribute of them. You can have tough times, brutal times, in fact, but still have that can-do, positive, will make it happen feeling. And I just want to encourage that for everyone, because that's free. You can do that for free. It doesn't cost you anything.
Love them up, says Alan Mulally. Thank you. Molly, I have thoroughly enjoyed talking to you. What's the overarching message that you want to leave with all of our listeners today?
My dream state for you is so that you can be who you are and say what needs to be said. And saying it skillfully, it is vital to your success, right? It's a capability that's going to help you be you. And it's going to, by example, help others be who they are. And when folks are bubbling up the different realities, you're going to work and get to an accurate shared reality, to be on the same page. And then you can make the best decisions, execute with speed, get to great outcomes. It's more rewarding, it's more impactful. And I just encourage folks to really have the faith that it can happen. And I get that for some people, this can never happen. It can. And it really starts with each and every one of us.
It does. It does. And hey, listen, Tamika wants to know, do you have a TED Talk for us to view or reference?
So great, Tamika, because I have one drafted, and I'm in touch with one of the TEDx folks, and they're trying to figure out, like, what are they doing? But that's been on my list, and absolutely, that's the culmination of all this, is I'd love to get it. And by the way, I'm going to be reaching out to you, because we're going to need help having people take a look at it.
Wonderful. So, Tamika, you are speaking it into existence. We love it. So, Molly, where else then can people learn more about you, and how can they connect to you?
So would be grateful if folks would go to sayitskillfully.com, because that's not on LinkedIn, and everyone can access that. You can sign up on my mailing list. I don't pepper you with emails. It's just when there's a video out, I'll send it to you, and it gives you an easy way to forward to people. On sayitskillfully.com are some of the other things I'm involved with. If you go to About Me, follow me on LinkedIn. And then I would really warmly welcome any of you to call into my radio show on Tuesdays, 11 a.m. to noon East Coast time. And you can have a live chat, ask me whatever's going on. And know that what you're doing is, sure, we're helping you with your conversation, but we're modeling for a lot of folks that we all need help. And you're helping folks understand different ways to say a situation that they have as well. So a lot of the problems people have are very similar. And we can show the links. The Voice America platform is where I have my Say It Skillfully show. If you have Alexa, apparently you can yell into Alexa, play Say It Skillfully, Alexa, and my show will come on, which I think is hilarious. So we're on all the podcasts.
Alexa makes it easy, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to put all of those links into the show notes so that folks can follow you. We need to get you up a little bit higher. 58,000 is not just quite enough. So we're going to tell everybody who's listening to the Keep Leading podcast, the Keep Leading Live, to follow you, Molly, and to look for that TED Talk that's going to be coming out pretty soon.
Thank you. I am grateful to you, Eddie, for this opportunity, and it's just a gift. I look forward to more ways we can collaborate. I
do too. So thank you for being a guest on Keep Leading Live. So thank you all for listening as well. This interview with Molly will air as a regular podcast episode in a couple of months. So right now on keepleadinglive.com, you will have access to the video. Of course, you'll have access to the video and the social feeds as well. It'll come out as a regular podcast on keepleadingpodcast.com later on. That does it for this episode. Just another reminder that leadership is not about our title or our position. Leadership is about activity. Leadership is action. It's not the case of once a leader, always a leader. It's not a garment that we put on and take off. You and I must be leaders at our core and allow it to emanate in all we do. And as Molly said today, in all we say. So whatever you're doing, always keep leading.